Welcome back guys. Today we're going to be doing the Serpentine Belt on this 100 series Landcruiser. This one's got the 2UZ FE V8 petrol engine in it, which is also common to the LX470s. This particular belt does your water pump, alternator, aircon and power steering, and it's a really easy job that takes minimal tools to do. So let's jump right in. There's a few basic tools you're going to need to do this job. Grab yourself a long socket wrench or a breaker bar, a short socket wrench, a 14 and 10mm socket, as well as an extension and some gloves. Now in terms of the belt we're going to be installing, this is the part number for the 2003 model Landcruiser, but there are a number of different part numbers depending on your year. So what we would recommend is to take your VIN number and jump on partsouq.com, and that'll tell you the correct belt for your vehicle. Now technically you don't need to remove anything to actually get to your Serpentine belt, but to make the job a bit easier and to get your hands in, we recommend removing the engine cover as well as this air intake tubing. So to remove your engine cover, grab your 10mm socket and undo the 4 bolts that are on the top. You will need to briefly remove your engine oil filler cap just to get that cover off. But make sure you put that back on so that you don't get any debris falling into your engine oil. To remove this air intake tubing, we're going to start by loosening this clamp with a 10mm socket. Then on this side of the air intake, you've got these 3 hoses, one here, and one here, which all need to be removed. Now on this side of the intake, we're going to remove this clip up the top. This one's just a press and pull. So you press down on this tab here and pull outwards. And you can just tuck that one down below. Then we've got 2 bolts, this one down here and this one here, which both take a 10mm. And then lastly, at the front of this air intake, we've got this little hose here which we can remove. As well as the 3 clips holding on the airbox lid. That should then allow you to remove the whole air intake assembly from the car, which you can put over to the side. Looking from the top of the engine, this is where we remove the air intake from, and if you look down below, you'll see the tensioning pulley here, which is where we'll be putting our breaker bar to relieve the tension on this belt. So this is your tensioning pulley here. Behind it, you'll notice 4 markings and a slight arrow towards the front. For a used belt, that arrow should line up between the 1st and 4th markers. If it falls outside of that range, the belt should be replaced. And for a new belt, it should sit between the 1st and 3rd. Now ours is actually sitting in that new belt range. However, because we don't know the age of the belt, we're going to replace it as a bit of preventative maintenance. So grab your 14mm socket on a breaker bar or a long-handled socket wrench and put it onto this bolt on your tensioning pulley. Now turning this bolt counterclockwise will loosen the spring-loaded mechanism on this pulley and allow you to remove the belt. Once you've slid the belt off the tensioner pulley, you can remove your socket and continue to remove the belt off the other pulleys. Now at this point the belt should be fairly loose, and you may find you just might need to come over to the other side of the engine and make sure that it's free of any of the other components, and then you should be able to just lift it out from the top of the engine bay. So then we can grab our new belt and start to run it around the 7 pulleys. Now we're going to start from the right hand side of the engine around the air conditioning pulley. So there is quite a few pulleys to go around, so just take your time and refer to the diagram on the screen. Once you're happy that the belt's routed around all the pulleys except for the tensioner pulley, just check that they're all running in the grooves correctly. Then we can grab our 14mm socket, and you want to pass it down around the remaining loop of the belt and onto the bolt for the tensioning pulley. Then we can turn that pulley anti-clockwise again to release the tension and feed the belt over the tensioning pulley. While you're relieving the tension with your breaker bar, just make sure that all of the ribs on the belt are sitting correctly in all of the grooves on the pulleys. Once you're happy that that's the case, we can release the tension and remove our breaker bar. Now that we've put the new belt on, we can come back and check those tension markers, and we can see that the arrow here is within the first and third, so the belt is within spec. Then we can grab our intake assembly and start assembling that all back together. So remember your 3 clips at the top of your airbox here. Then you've got this connector that clips into the top here, and your 3 hoses towards the back. You've also got the smaller hose on the front side here, and your 2 10mm bolts that go at the back. So we can grab our 10mm socket and snug those down. And finally, we'll just come and tighten this clamp at the front. You don't need to overdo it, but just make sure it's nice and firm. Then we can grab our engine cover. Just remember to take off the oil filler cap and lower the cover down from the top. Reinstate the cap and start to put these bolts back. Remember that these take a 10mm socket. You don't need to tighten these too much, just make them nice and firm. Once everything's back together, we're just going to start the car and check the belt to make sure that it's running correctly on the pulleys. It's a good idea to hang on to that old belt as a critical spare that you keep in the car. If you've made it this far through the video, we'd really appreciate if you considered subscribing, as it really helps out the channel and it means that you won't miss out on the ever-growing list of DIY content. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.